you know the rules. You can ace the written tests, conjugate the verbs, and spot a misplaced modifier from a mile away. But the moment you actually have to speak, your brain just stops. This happens because we're trained in what you could call the academic mode. We operate under the assumption that if we just memorize enough rules for writing, those rules will automatically convert into verbal communication skills. But that's like studying a combustion engine blueprint and expecting it to give you the physical reflexes to drive at highway speeds. Passing a written grammar test and holding a real-time conversation require two entirely different mental mechanisms. The first barrier blocking that real-time mechanism is the translation habit. This flowchart shows the mental workflow when you translate. You form a concept, drag it word for word through your native language, and then push it out as English. That cross-language comparison creates a massive processing delay. Native rules rarely map perfectly onto English, so sentences often sound awkward and unnatural. To reach conversational speed, you have to drop the middleman. You have to link the concept directly to the English output. Even if you drop the translation step, there is a second major glitch: active grammar checking. Imagine standing in front of someone waiting for a reply while your brain frantically tries to calculate the correct verb tense, apply the right article, and construct a complex conjugation. The sheer cognitive load is paralyzing. Natural communication doesn't work like that. When native speakers talk, their brains are focused almost exclusively on conveying the meaning of the message, not actively verifying the structural rules behind it. Active grammar checking acts as a processing error, prioritizing rule following over the very flow required for communication. Linguists have identified a neurological shortcut around this delay. It's called the lexical approach, and it treats language not as individual puzzle pieces, but as pre-packaged units. Instead of retrieving vocabulary word by word and calculating grammar to connect them, you deploy a single, ready-made chunk of language. Native speakers use these pre-built patterns constantly to anchor thoughts. Phrases like, I think, I feel like, the problem is, or what I mean is. Mastering just one of these foundational patterns gives you a multiplier effect. You can attach dozens of different endings to a single chunk, allowing you to generate hundreds of correct sentences without doing a single grammar calculation. This simple move toward pre-packaged language begins to bypass the slow, conscious assembly that characterizes the academic mode. But there is a psychological block that makes both of these cognitive bottlenecks worse. Linguists refer to it as the affective filter. It's the fear of the red pen. The anxiety of making a mistake, sounding foolish, or being judged triggers an emotional response that physically shuts down your brain's ability to process and produce language. Errors provide the essential data points your brain needs to recalibrate its patterns and grow. Your brain requires that friction to improve. Lowering this psychological barrier allows the brain to process input and produce speech without the interference of anxiety. You simply cannot be fluent if you are afraid. To fix the processing glitch, the passive academic study has to stop, and active practical output has to begin. You need to adopt a new operational formula. Stop translating in your head, attach your thoughts directly to ideas, and rely on pre-built sentence patterns. This requires daily speaking practice, where the only goal is continuous flow. When you stumble, you accept the error, recalibrate, and keep moving. Ultimately, fluency is measured by the speed and clarity of your ideas, regardless of perfect adherence to every rule.